A routine veterinary call turns into a nightmare when a mare goes into labor. But the birth is shocking. It's not a foal, and what happens next defies explanation. Prepare for a story filled with suspense, mystery, and an unexpected twist that will leave you questioning everything. Stay tuned to uncover the unbelievable truth behind this jaw-dropping moment. The wind howled through towering trees, carrying sheets of rain that lashed against Dr. Marcus Hayes's truck. His headlights illuminated the narrow, muddy road ahead. As he gripped the steering wheel tightly, it wasn't his first stormy call, but this one felt different. Victor, a man who owned a remote ranch, had urgently called about his mare Bella, who was in labor and struggling. Marcus, a seasoned veterinarian, packed his emergency kit and headed out without hesitation. The storm added unease to the night. The road twisted and turned, flanked by dense woods that seemed to swallow the light. Finally, he spotted the faint glow of a barn in the distance. Victor was waiting by the barn door, his face tense. As Marcus stepped out of the truck, Victor said, "Dr. Hayes, she's inside." Marcus grabbed his bag and followed Victor into the barn. The warm scent of hay mixed with the metallic tang of rain-soaked wood. Bella, a beautiful chestnut mare, lay on her side in a large stall, her breathing labored, sweat darkening her coat, and her eyes wide with distress. "She's been restless all day," Victor explained, his hands clenching and unclenching. "Then she went down a few hours ago. I've never seen her like this." Marcus knelt beside the mare, running his hands along her swollen belly. "It's time," he said calmly but firmly. "Let's get her ready." As Marcus prepared for the delivery, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Bella's vital signs were stable, but there was an intensity in her movements as if she were fighting against something more than just labor pains. The rain outside intensified, pounding against the barn roof like a drum roll. "Have there been any complications during the pregnancy?" Marcus asked, glancing at Victor. Victor hesitated, avoiding Marcus's gaze. "No, nothing unusual." Marcus narrowed his eyes but said nothing, focusing instead on Bella as the contractions grew stronger. He guided her through the process, speaking soothingly. "That's it, girl, you're doing great." Minutes turned into an hour as the labor progressed. Finally, Bella let out a deep, shuddering cry, and Marcus reached for the newborn. The moment his hands touched the foal, Marcus froze. It wasn't a foal. The creature was covered in a slick membrane, its body smaller and oddly proportioned. Its legs were bent at unnatural angles, and its coat shimmered faintly in the dim barn light. But it was the eyes that made Marcus's breath catch in his throat, large, unblinking, and filled with an intelligence that didn't belong to a newborn animal. Victor stood frozen, his face pale. What is that?" he stammered. Marcus didn't answer, his hands trembling as he cradled the creature, his mind racing to process what he was seeing. The thing, whatever it was, let out a faint, melodic sound unlike any noise Marcus had ever heard from a horse or any other animal. "It's alive," Marcus said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Victor took a step closer, his eyes narrowing. "We need to keep this quiet," he said sharply. "No one can know about this." Marcus turned to him, his expression hardening. "Victor, what aren't you telling me? What is this?" Before Victor could respond, Bella let out a low, mournful whinny, drawing both men's attention. The mare's breathing had become shallow, her body trembling as she strained to recover from the birth. Marcus set the creature down gently and rushed back to Bella's side, his instincts as a vet taking over. As Marcus worked to stabilize Bella, the creature began to move, its unsteady legs carrying it across the stall. It stopped in front of Victor, tilting its head as if studying him. Victor's face twisted with fear and something else, recognition. Marcus looked up just in time to see the creature do something that left him speechless. The creature stood in the dim light of the barn, its movements slow but deliberate. Its legs, though oddly shaped, found stability as it turned its large, shimmering eyes toward Victor. The tension in the air was palpable as it let out another faint, melodic sound, a haunting noise that sent chills down Marcus's spine. Marcus's spine stiffened as Victor took a step back, his face pale. This isn't possible," he muttered under his breath. "What do you mean, Victor?" Marcus demanded, his voice rising with urgency. He knelt beside Bella, his hands working to stabilize her as he kept one eye on the strange newborn. "What's going on here?" Victor didn't answer, his gaze locked on the creature, fear and recognition swirling in his expression. Marcus felt a surge of frustration. He was a veterinarian, not a detective. But whatever was happening here went far beyond anything he'd ever encountered. Bella let out another weak whine, drawing Marcus's attention back to her. The mare's breathing was shallow, and her body trembled violently. "She's in shock," Marcus said firmly. "We need to calm her down and keep her warm." Victor snapped out of his trance and grabbed a blanket, tossing it to Marcus. Together, they draped it over Bella, but her condition remained critical. Marcus worked quickly, administering fluids and checking her vitals. As he worked, the creature made its way closer to Bella, its unsteady legs carrying it across the stall. "Keep it away from her," Victor said sharply, his voice tinged with panic. Marcus glanced up, his brow furrowed. "It's her offspring," he said. "Whatever it is, it's bonded to her." Victor shook his head, his hands clenching into fists. "That's not her foal," he said, his voice low and filled with dread. The creature stopped a few feet from Bella, tilting its head as it observed her. Then, to Marcus's astonishment, it made a soft, almost humming sound. Bella's trembling began to subside, her breathing evening out. Marcus blinked, his mind racing to make sense of what he was seeing. "It's calming her," Marcus said, his voice filled with awe. Victor's expression darkened. "You don't understand," he said. "This thing isn't natural. It shouldn't exist." Marcus stood, his patience wearing thin. "Then explain it to me," he demanded. "What aren't you telling me, Victor?" Victor hesitated, his gaze darting toward the barn door as if weighing his options. Finally, he let out a heavy sigh. "This ranch wasn't always mine," he began. "I inherited it from my uncle, who was a researcher. He was obsessed with pushing the boundaries of what's possible genetics, hybridization. He experimented on animals, horses included." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "You're saying this creature is the result of some kind of experiment?" Victor nodded, his face grim. "I shut it all down when I took over, but some of his work lingered. Bella must have been exposed somehow." The weight of Victor's confession hung heavy in the air. Marcus turned back to the creature, which now stood protectively beside Bella. Its iridescent coat shimmered faintly in the light, and its large eyes seemed to hold a depth of understanding, far beyond what a newborn should possess. "This changes everything," Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We can't just hide this." Victor's eyes narrowed. "We don't have a choice if this gets out. The consequences." He was cut off by a loud crash. Both men turned toward the barn door, where a group of shadowy figures stood silhouetted against the stormy night. One of them stepped forward, his voice cold and authoritative. "We're here for the asset." As the figures advanced into the barn, Marcus positioned himself protectively in front of Bella and the creature. Victor's face twisted with fear, but he didn't move. "Who are they?" Marcus demanded, his heart pounding. The leader of the group stepped closer, his expression unreadable. "Step aside. Doctor, this isn't your fight." The barn filled with the sound of heavy boots squelching against the muddy floor as the shadowy figures stepped inside. Their movements were deliberate, their faces obscured by the dim light. The leader, a tall man in a black coat, fixed his cold gaze on Marcus, who stood protectively in front of Bella and the creature. "Step aside, Doctor," the man said, his voice calm but commanding. "We're here for the asset." Marcus's heart pounded as he glanced at Victor, whose face had gone pale. "What's going on, Victor?" Marcus demanded. "Who are these people?" "They're part of it," Victor said, his voice trembling. "My uncle's research didn't die with him. They've been watching the ranch, waiting for something like this to happen." Marcus turned back to the leader, his jaw tightening. "This is a living being," he said, "not some asset. Whatever you think you're taking, I won't let you." The leader's expression remained unreadable as he took another step forward, the tension in the barn reaching a boiling point. The leader's expression didn't waver. "We're not here to debate ethics, Doctor. That creature is the result of decades of work, and it belongs to us." Before Marcus could respond, the creature let out a low, melodic hum that echoed through the barn. The sound was both calming and unsettling, as if it carried an intelligence far beyond what Marcus could comprehend. The figures hesitated, their movements faltering as the sound filled the space. It's affecting them, Marcus thought, glancing at the intruders. For a brief moment, the tension in the barn eased, as though the creature's presence alone could manipulate the atmosphere. Victor took advantage of the distraction, grabbing Marcus's arm and pulling him toward Bella. "Bella, we need to get her out of here," Victor hissed. "If they take the creature, they'll kill her too. She's evidence." Marcus's mind raced. Bella was still weak, and moving her could be dangerous. But leaving her at the mercy of these people wasn't an option. He grabbed a halter and gently slipped it over Bella's head. "We'll need to move fast," he said, his voice low. The creature, as if sensing their urgency, moved closer to Bella, pressing its strange, shimmering body against hers. Bella let out a soft whinny, her breathing steadying as the creature hummed again. As Marcus and Victor guided Bella toward the side door of the barn, the leader of the group snapped out of his trance. "Stop them," he ordered, his voice sharp. The figures moved quickly, blocking the exit. One of them reached for a tranquilizer gun, aiming it at Bella. Marcus stepped forward, raising his hands. "If you shoot her, she'll die," he said. "She's barely recovered from labor." The leader hesitated, his gaze flicking between Marcus and the creature. "Then give us the asset," he said. "You don't understand what you're dealing with." "I understand enough," Marcus shot back. "This isn't just some experiment. It's alive, and I won't let you treat it like a possession." Before the standoff could escalate, the creature acted. It stepped forward, its legs trembling but determined, and let out a piercing, harmonic cry. The sound was unlike anything Marcus had ever heard, an otherworldly resonance that seemed to ripple through the air. The intruders froze, their weapons dropping as they clutched their heads, their faces contorted in pain. "What is it doing?" Victor whispered, his voice trembling. Marcus didn't answer. He was too focused on the creature, whose shimmering coat seemed to pulse with an inner light. Bella, standing beside it, appeared unaffected, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos around her. Taking advantage of the intruder's disorientation, Marcus and Victor guided Bella out of the barn and into the stormy night. The rain pelted down as they made their way toward the truck, the creature following, its movements unsteady but purposeful, as if it understood the urgency of the situation. Marcus opened the truck's back gate, creating a makeshift space for Bella and the creature. "We'll take them to my clinic," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos. "They'll be safe there." Victor hesitated, his gaze darting back toward the barn. "You don't know what you're getting into, Marcus," he said. "This isn't over." Marcus climbed into the driver's seat, his jaw set. "Maybe not," he said, "but I won't let them take her or it." As they drove through the storm, headlights appeared in the rearview mirror. The intruders were following them, their vehicles gaining speed. Marcus gripped the wheel tightly, his mind racing. How far was he willing to go to protect Bella and the mysterious creature? The truck's tires skidded on the slick, muddy road as Marcus pressed the accelerator, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. The headlights in the rearview mirror grew closer, illuminating the shadowy figures pursuing them. The storm roared around them, sheets of rain pounding against the windshield, making it nearly impossible to see. "Faster, Marcus," Victor shouted from the passenger seat, his voice laced with panic. He glanced back at Bella and the creature, in the truck's makeshift bed, their forms barely visible through the fogged rear window. "I'm going as fast as I can," Marcus shot back, his heart pounding. He couldn't stop thinking about the fragile state of Bella and the strange, shimmering creature. Both their lives depended on him outrunning their pursuers. The road twisted and turned, flanked by dense woods that seemed to close in around them. Marcus's truck jolted over a pothole, causing Bella to whine in distress. The creature let out another low, melodic hum as if trying to calm her. Marcus stole a glance in the rearview mirror. The intruders' vehicles were closing the gap, their headlights cutting through the storm like knives. "We can't keep this up," Victor said, his voice trembling. "They're going to catch us." Marcus's mind raced. He knew the back roads like the back of his hand, But in this weather, every turn felt like a gamble. Then an idea struck him. "There's an old service trail up ahead," he said. "It's rough, but it might slow them down." Victor nodded, clinging to the dashboard as Marcus veered sharply onto a narrow, overgrown path. Branches scraped against the sides of the truck, and the tires struggled for traction on the muddy ground. The headlights behind them swerved, but didn't falter. The storm seemed to intensify, lightning illuminating the forest in brief, blinding flashes. Each strike revealed the relentless pursuit of the intruders, their vehicles bouncing over the uneven terrain. Marcus gritted his teeth, pushing the truck harder than he ever had before. Suddenly, the creature let out another piercing cry, a sound so sharp and otherworldly that it seemed to cut through the storm itself. Marcus and Victor flinched, their ears ringing, but the effect on their pursuers was immediate. The headlights behind them wavered, and one of the vehicles skidded off the trail, crashing into a tree. What just happened?" Victor asked, his voice shaking. "I don't know," Marcus replied, his eyes darting to the rearview mirror. "But whatever it is, it's helping us." The remaining vehicle pressed on, its driver undeterred. Marcus knew they couldn't keep running indefinitely. Bella was exhausted, and the creature's cries, while powerful, seemed to take a toll on it. They needed a plan. "There's a clearing up ahead," Marcus said. "If we can reach it, we might have a chance to regroup." Victor nodded, though his expression remained grim. "And if they catch us?" Marcus didn't answer. The weight of the question hung heavily in the air. They burst into the clearing, the truck skidding to a stop in the middle of the open space. Marcus and Victor jumped out, hurriedly checking on Bella and the creature. Bella was trembling but stable, her eyes wide with fear. The creature, however, was different. Its iridescent coat glowed faintly in the darkness, and its large, unblinking eyes seemed to fix on the approaching vehicle. "They're coming," Victor said, his voice tight with fear. The pursuing vehicle screeched to a halt at the edge of the clearing, its headlights flooding the area with harsh light. The leader of the intruders stepped out, his coat billowing in the wind. He raised a hand, signaling his men to surround the truck. "This is your last chance." "Doctor," the leader said, his tone cold and commanding. "Hand over the asset, and no one gets hurt." Marcus stepped forward, his body shielding Bella and the creature. "You're not taking them," he said, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "Whatever this is, it's not yours to claim." The leader's eyes narrowed. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," he said. "That creature is dangerous. If you won't hand it over, we'll take it by force." Before Marcus could respond, the creature let out another cry, its melodic sound rising in intensity. The ground beneath them seemed to vibrate, and the air grew thick with an electric charge. The intruders hesitated, their weapons faltering as they clutched their heads in pain. "It's protecting us," Marcus realized, his breath catching in his throat as the creature's cry reached its peak. A blinding light erupted from its body, illuminating the clearing and sending the intruders scrambling. When the light faded, the creature stood taller, its presence more commanding than ever. Marcus stared in awe, realizing that this was only the beginning of what the creature could do. But what was it truly capable of? And why was it here? The clearing fell silent as the blinding light faded, leaving Marcus and Victor blinking in the eerie aftermath. The intruders had retreated slightly, their weapons lowered as they whispered among themselves, shaken by what they had witnessed. In the center of it all stood the creature, its shimmering coat glowing faintly in the darkness. It seemed taller now, more assured, its unblinking eyes scanning the humans with an unsettling intelligence. "What just happened?" Victor asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Marcus didn't respond. His attention was locked on the creature, which now turned its gaze toward him. There was something in its expression, an awareness that defied explanation. For a moment, it almost seemed as if it was trying to communicate. The leader of the intruders stepped forward again, his face a mix of fear and determination. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "That creature is not a miracle, it's a mistake." Marcus stepped in front of Bella and the creature, his jaw set. "If it's a mistake, then it's your mistake," he said sharply. "But it's alive, and it doesn't belong to you." The leader's eyes darkened. It's not about ownership. That thing is a threat. If we don't contain it now, we'll all regret it." As the tension in the clearing escalated, the creature let out another low, melodic hum. This time, the sound wasn't as sharp or piercing. It was softer, almost soothing. Bella, who had been trembling with fear, relaxed visibly, her breathing slowing. Even Marcus felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. Victor, however, looked uneasy. "It's not just protecting us," he said quietly. "It's trying to tell us something." Marcus turned to Victor, his brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" Victor hesitated, then gestured toward the creature. "Look at it. It's not acting like a scared animal. It's aware, almost like it knows more than we do." The creature took a few unsteady steps forward, stopping just a few feet from the leader of the intruders. The man flinched but held his ground, his hand hovering near the weapon at his side. The creature tilted its head, its eyes locking onto his with an intensity that made him freeze. Then, in a moment that defied all logic, the creature raised one of its oddly shaped legs and pressed it gently against the man's chest. The leader's expression shifted from fear to something else, recognition, perhaps, or even regret. He took a step back, lowering his weapon. "What are you?" the leader whispered, his voice barely audible. Before anyone could react, the creature let out another hum, its glowing coat pulsing faintly. Images flashed in Marcus's mind, brief, fragmented glimpses of a laboratory, a group of scientists, and a series of experiments that seemed both groundbreaking and reckless. He saw Bella in a sterile room, her eyes wide with fear as unfamiliar hands touched her, and then he saw the creature, not as it was now, but as a tiny, fragile embryo barely clinging to life. Marcus staggered, clutching his head as the visions faded. "It's showing us what happened," he said, his voice shaky. "It's trying to make us understand." Victor's face was pale as he processed what Marcus had said. This was my uncle's doing," he admitted, his voice filled with guilt. "He was trying to create something beyond nature, something that could adapt, evolve, and survive in ways no other creature could. And now it's here. But that doesn't make it a threat," Marcus said, his tone grim. "It's not our place to decide whether it deserves to exist." The leader of the intruders stepped back, his men watching him nervously. "We didn't come here for a debate," he said, though his voice lacked its previous confidence. "But if we don't take it, someone else will, and they won't hesitate to destroy it." The creature turned its gaze to Marcus, its eyes filled with a silent plea. Marcus felt a surge of resolve. "No one's taking it," he said firmly. "If you want to protect it, help us find a way to keep it safe." The leader hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. "We'll need to move fast. Others will be coming for it soon." Victor stepped forward, his expression determined. "Then we start now. Whatever my uncle began, it's our responsibility to ensure this creature isn't exploited or destroyed." As they prepared to leave the clearing, the creature let out one final hum, its glow intensifying. Marcus felt another vision wash over him, this time of the creature's potential future. What he saw left him both awestruck and terrified. Could this being truly be the key to something greater? Or would it become the catalyst for unimaginable consequences? The storm had subsided, leaving the clearing bathed in the pale light of dawn. The silence was heavy, broken only by the soft breathing of Bella and the faint hum from the creature. Marcus stood beside Victor and the leader of the intruders, the three men locked in a tense standoff. But for the first time, the tension wasn't born of fear. It was uncertainty about what to do next. "We can't stay here," the leader said finally. "If others are coming, they'll be here soon." Marcus nodded, his mind racing. "The clinic," he said. "It's the only place I can think of. It's isolated, and we can keep the creature safe while we figure out what to do." Victor hesitated, glancing at Bella and the creature. "And then what?" he asked. "What's the end game here, Marcus? We can't hide it forever." "We don't need forever," Marcus replied. "Just enough time to understand it, to make sure it's not a danger to itself or others." The leader's expression softened, a flicker of agreement crossing his face. "All right," he said. "But know this, if it becomes a threat, we will have no choice but to act." The group moved quickly, loading Bella and the creature into the truck. The journey to the clinic was tense, every shadow on the road and every sound in the distance setting their nerves on edge. The creature, however, remained calm, its glowing coat dimming slightly as if conserving energy. When they arrived at the clinic, Marcus and Victor worked swiftly to settle Bella into a recovery stall. The creature stayed close to her, its melodic hum a constant reassurance. Marcus couldn't help but marvel at the bond between them, a connection that seemed to go beyond biology. This thing, it's more than just an experiment, Marcus said quietly to Victor. It's intelligent, empathetic, even. Your uncle might have been reckless, but he created something extraordinary. Victor didn't reply. His expression conflicted. Extraordinary doesn't mean safe, he said finally. We still don't know what it's capable of. Hours turned into days. As Marcus studied the creature, documenting its behavior and health, it adapted quickly, eating and drinking with ease and even learning to mimic some of Bella's behavior. But what fascinated Marcus most was its ability to communicate. The hums, once random, now seemed deliberate, as if the creature was trying to convey emotions or ideas. One evening, as Marcus sat in the stall, the creature approached him. It tilted its head, its large eyes locking onto his. Then it raised its leg and gently tapped Marcus's chest. In that instant, another vision flooded his mind, a glimpse of a world where humans and creatures like this one coexisted, their abilities used for healing, protection, and understanding. But the vision also showed chaos, greed, fear, and the consequences of humanity's inability to handle such a discovery. Marcus staggered back, his breath ragged. It's showing me what could be, he said, his voice shaking. The good and the bad. Victor entered the stall, his brow furrowed. What did you see? He asked. Marcus hesitated. A choice, he said. This creature could change everything for better or worse, but that depends on us. Before they could continue, the clinic's alarm system blared. Marcus rushed to the monitor, his heart sinking, as he saw several vehicles approaching. They found us, he said, his voice tight. The leader of the intruders appeared beside him, his jaw clenched. It's not my team, he said. These people won't hesitate to destroy everything to get what they want. The next moments were a blur of preparation. Victor helped Marcus secure Bella and the creature in a hidden stall while the leader and his remaining men fortified the clinic. As the vehicles stopped outside, a voice called out through a megaphone. Hand over the creature or we'll take it by force. Marcus glanced at the creature, its glow intensifying as if sensing the danger. We're not handing it over, he said firmly. The attackers moved in, and chaos erupted. Shots were fired, and the clinic's windows shattered. But just as the situation seemed dire, the creature let out its most powerful hum yet. The sound reverberated through the building, forcing everyone to stop in their tracks. The attackers clutched their heads, disoriented and unable to move. In the silence that followed, the leader turned to Marcus. You have to go, he said. Take the creature and leave. We'll hold them off. Marcus hesitated, but Victor grabbed his arm. He's right, Victor said. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about giving this creature a chance. Reluctantly, Marcus loaded Bella and the creature into the truck. As he drove away, the clinic fading into the distance, he couldn't help but feel a sense of both loss and hope. The creature had shown him what was possible, a future of connection and understanding. But it was up to him to protect that future. As Marcus and Victor fled to an undisclosed location, the creature let out one final hum, its glow illuminating the darkness. Marcus glanced at it through the rearview mirror, his resolve firm. We'll find a way, he whispered. Together. If this story left you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Join us for more tales of suspense, wonder, and the extraordinary.